Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hurd in the House. This is episode 6, and I am pleased to welcome my guest, Congressman Blake Moore from Utah's 1st Congressional District. Congressman Moore is a Utah native. He is a University of Utah graduate. He has a master's degree in public policy and administration from Northwestern. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
He served as a Foreign Service Officer for the U.S. Department of State, was also in the intelligence and defense community. We could probably ask about that more, but
you handled that really well.
Good.
You were vague enough that it was perfectly delivered.
He is the first ever Utah Republican on the House Ways and Means Committee and on the House Budget Committee, and he is actually chairman of the Special Healthcare Task Force on the House Budget Committee, and he's also the first Utahn, if I said that right?
Yeah, perfect.
To be elected to House leadership. He's vice chair of the House Republican Conference. Now, one interesting fact about Congressman Moore is he was, in high school, awarded the Wendy's National High School Heisman, which is an award that honors one male and one female senior for excellence in athletics, academics, and citizenship. You were a high school quarterback, is that right?
Oh, we're gonna start with the glory days. I love it. Absolutely. That's how my comms team got me into this. They told me that we were gonna do some glory days conversation. Just joking. That's all you have to say.
Also, Congressman Moore is congressman for my little brother, Kevin.
Most important fact.
Well, actually, second most important. The most important fact is that he is a husband to Jane and the father of 4 boys. Congressman Blake Moore, welcome to Hurd in the House.
This is a great name of the podcast. I love it, and happy to be on.
Blake, you said your favorite title isn't congressman, it's Little League coach. So be honest, which is tougher, keeping a team of 9-year-olds focused or running the House Republican Conference?
Well, the offense this year is I'm the offensive coordinator for our team. That's kind of like a name I've given myself. I'm just a volunteer dad helping out, but I call myself an offensive coordinator to try to heighten it a little bit. Our offense is running pretty well this year, so far easier to deal with a bunch of Little League football players than all of our colleagues in Congress. But that's what makes it fun. Yeah. We're playing tackle football.
Oh, nice.
So I have a 12-year-old boy and a 9-year-old boy playing. They're both doing great. It's a nice little like one of those things because we get so. Congress is so all-consuming, especially like when you're on Ways and Means and you have a tax bill that you're doing. Like the last 6 months has been all-consuming, and it's nice to have a little bit of like this reprieve and this thing to be focused on. So I'll be texting our head coach and be like, "Hey, I have an idea for our first offensive series and stuff," and I'll be in like a committee hearing, and it's nice to be having something out there to be thinking about. That's the real world. That's what most Americans are out there doing. They're working. They're trying to support their kids and it's kind of fun to be able to do the same.
You have some of your best ideas in some of those, maybe not the most exciting committee hearings. You have those good offensive plans.
Sometimes you even nod off during those committee hearings, but most of the time I'm focused.
Well, you're daydreaming on getting the perfect play. So, well, that's awesome. And it also provides you good perspective, too. Like, you can get a little bit distorted with, just being here in Washington, the rush, going back home.
It's absolutely
coaching football with your kids.
It keeps a lot of perspective to be focused on things that are back home.
Yeah. So now you were an Eagle Scout. I don't know if I mentioned that, and a high school quarterback. Good gravy, you were accomplished in high school. It was all downhill from there, Blake.
I peaked early. Really early.
So as an Eagle Scout, high school quarterback, Wendy's National High School Heisman Award recipient, how do those experiences shape how you lead today, whether in politics or in parenting?
We get asked to do a lot of unique, oftentimes really cool things to do that you would never get asked to do if you weren't a member of Congress. But I'll get to go to like a high school or a middle school day presentation. Sometimes I've gone in and presented to kids either at an assembly or just in their own class, a civics class or something. And what I always talk to them about is whatever you're doing in life right now, whether it's like I point out, you play track, you're one of the band members, you're really into science, and you just kind of go around the room and ask them, and I'll say, but you need to stay well-rounded. You need to have a broad interest level. And the things you just listed off, I was just a normal kid that was just interested in lots of different things, and I had parents that directed me to church activities, to scouting activities, to athletics, made sure I got good grades. That's important in life, and especially when you're younger. And so I love being able to use my role to go and kind of evangelize the importance of staying well-rounded. Because, you should do that your whole life, but at some point you're going to have to go deep onto a topic. You're going to have to go become an accountant. You're going to have to go and learn how to be, try to go to med school or something like that. You're going to have to zero in on a specialty, but, maintain some level of interest across the board. I love to golf now, but I just, over the last few months, I've had a few chances to fly fish, and I have been missing out on the last, I tried like 20 years ago to fly fish.
Yeah.
And I just started back up again a couple weeks ago, and like I am really excited about like getting my boys out there to go try it a little bit. It's just one of those things you got to keep your interest broad.
Well, where there's a lot of great fly fishing is in Colorado's 3rd Congressional District.
Almost as good. It probably would be. Utah's. Oh, you know what's funny? So we always joke about. I always joke about greatest snow on earth. That's what our license plates say in Utah, so it must be the best skiing. We can leave that for another podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna have to edit this out.
The best fishing, the most fish per like unit of mile on a river is the Green River, that literally borders our two states.
Yes,
so just off of Flaming Gorge from the Green River and that stretch that goes right into Utah and goes in and out of Colorado, some of the best fishing and most fish per unit in the country.
That's awesome. In the West, everything is best in the West, I think. So, Blake, your first election was in 2020. What's a moment from your first campaign that still makes you laugh or cringe?
It was COVID.
Oh my gosh!
So the whole thing was cringy, right? Like I had to do our convention online, so you had to put together a video. That was actually notable, and it's a unique mix because you're able to, doing things more remote, you're able to reach more folks, but you lose that personal connection. So there was a lot of people didn't get a chance to really know me that well. But I mean, I was the last candidate to enter the race, and there was 12 approximately. I think there was, by the time the thing was, there was 12 people, and I emerged as a political no name, but
no kidding.
Did it.
What was the secret?
We had a lot of air time that we focused on to go out, and just it kind of had like a really unique ad that caught people's attention, brought it back to my roots of growing up in Ogden.
Is that where you were born?
Yeah, so I was born in Ogden. Great recreation area as well. The Olympics, when they come back to Utah, the downhill and the Super G are in my district at Snow Basin. So there's a lot of really cool things to do there. I just kind of drew it back to that. And I made it a point. I had 10 counties at the time. I made it a point. I was taking first or second place in all those counties. I didn't care if I was. I mean, I was going up against county commissioners and individuals with established name ID for that pocket. But I just spread it out and just tried to work the entire district a lot and give a lot of air cover. And we did it. We didn't always have to win every county, but we won. We took second at least in everywhere.
That's awesome. Not being afraid to fail. I'm sure I think that's probably goes back to high school and being willing to take risks.
Too many people in politics are afraid to fail. Like, so what? If I didn't get elected, it wasn't necessarily on me. I wanted to. I want to stay serving in this capacity, but it's you got to be willing to, you serve your time and be willing to say, hey, look, this may not be something I do forever, but I got to try to find a way to do what's right.
That's right, and not be afraid to do the right thing, even if it means you might lose. So. Okay, so what's something you look forward to doing with your family when you're back home in Utah? Do you guys have any special family traditions?
Right now, I mean, sports dominates our kids' life. They're 12, 9, and 3. My two older boys love sports. I coach a little bit where I can, particularly right now in the football season. Just taught them to fly fish. We love to ski, obviously, during the winter. But yeah, that's kind of, That's the majority of my older boys getting involved in more church activities, which is fun. And I'm trying to get my wife to golf more. Okay. She's playing tennis. We try to play tennis a little bit, but we're slowly but surely, getting her excited about this miserable sport called golf, which hopefully we can navigate. But there's no shortage. Utah has a bit of embarrassment of riches with regards to activities to do there. So we've got plenty of things, but
and your family, you are LDS, correct? Mm-hmm. There is a new temple that is being opened in Grand Junction.
Yep,
new temple. So I'm going to be visiting that.
I need to get out there.
Month. Yeah,
as your mentor.
You are my
I need to
mentor, and
get
I
out
forgot to
there.
mention that.
I
That's
tell
probably-
everybody on Capitol Hill knows. I tell them I'm the most proud mentor you could have.
and a great mentor. I get
I'm a
hazed
very,
little bit
very
about
average mentor, but you're a great member of Congress. So.
Well, that's very kind of you. All right, so you're the first Utahn on Ways and Means. So for listeners who might not follow committee work closely, what is Ways and Means? Why does it matter, and how does it affect daily life for people back home in your district and in mine?
Ways and Means is a unique committee. Congress works in a mysterious way. Most everything has to pass with a 60-vote threshold in the Senate, right? So it's usually bipartisan. That becomes problematic if you're trying to advance your agenda, right? So when the stars align for one party, Republican or Democrat, to have the White House, House, and Senate sort of in the majorities in Congress with the White House, you have an opportunity to do a reconciliation bill. So this is your big moment. You only can do one every budget cycle. This is the big moment. We obviously just got done with this process a few weeks ago, and you haven't been paying attention. We obviously, passed the one big beautiful bill.
We certainly did.
Tax reconciliation, tax cuts for working families piece. When you have that opportunity, Ways and Means is typically where that bill is done, even on the Democrat side. They had the American Rescue Plan, and they had the Inflation Reduction Act. Republicans have had, this Tax Cuts and Jobs Act back in 2017. When there's that star alignment, Ways and Means puts together a bill typically, and that's what we've done. This tax bill, tax policy affects every single American, affects every small business, large business, individual, family, you name it, and it's something we just really excited to get done. It was some of the busiest that our committee members have been over the last 6 months. We've been really working on this potential for the year and a half, hoping, hey, if we get an opportunity, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 expires at the end of 2025. If that would have come and gone, and we just didn't extend and make permanent what we could, it would be a massive tax increase across the board for every family, every American, every business, and we didn't want that to happen. So,
and we're talking about working
deal.
class, middle class, Utahns, Coloradans, Texans, New Mexicans, across the board, right?
Yeah, there's eastern states too, but we try not to remember most of those. We just kind of they fly over a portion of the country.
Well, Ways and Means is one of the oldest House committees, I think, along with Rules, and it goes all the way back to our founding. And
right.
I think Ways and Means is, I think,
eight presidents. I think 8 presidents have come from Ways and Means of the United States.
Yeah. So it's very influential, and it affects all of our lives. And the great economy that we enjoy depends in so much on the work that you're doing in Ways and Means. So it does. People may not hear about it all the time, but it certainly affects each and every one of us.
Yep.
So my brother, your constituent, my littlest brother, said that you had one of the best email summaries of the one big beautiful bill, the reconciliation bill that we just passed out of the House. Talk to us, and he says that as a constituent. He said it was really well done, it was plain spoken, it made sense, and it was very persuasive. Talk to us a little bit about that bill. How does the legislation that we passed here in Congress back in July, how does that benefit working and middle-class families in Utah and in Colorado?
Well, that's a very nice compliment. I'm his only congressman, so he doesn't have much to compare it to, unless he's following a lot. He's probably following a lot of other stuff. So I would say it's a low bar, but it actually is. It is an area that I try to distill it down into what matters to an individual that has more important things to do than to take a deep dive on tax policy. What I hope that I was able to communicate to him is, when you lower taxes and make them competitive, you're not creating deficits. You're actually creating, revenue will go up. Revenue traditionally has increased when you keep taxes competitive, because companies have an opportunity to say, hey, I'm either going to put my tax domicile in a country like Ireland, great ally, love Ireland, hope they're successful, but I don't want a bunch of U.S. multinationals saying, hey, there's 13% FDII rate in Ireland, and we do business there, so we can actually put our tax domicile there, as opposed to the 16% tax rate that we would have in the U.S. If we make that competitive and drop that down, that revenue comes back. That concept is so lost on folks, and I get why. And Democrats, unfortunately, are going to continue to lie about this bill. But when you make taxes competitive, you will actually see more revenue come into the U.S. revenue, more dollars come into the U.S. revenue coffer, and that's a good thing, right? And we haven't had any inversions. Companies that are saying, "Hey, I'm going to local."
Time out. So, what is a FDII rate? First of all,
sorry, FDII. I just kind of flip it out. It's called foreign derived intangible income. It's when a company does business in multiple different countries. They can choose where their tax domicile is.
And we want them here in the United States.
We want them here. And if we have a 16% rate and another country has a 13%, then they're going to pay to the 13% rate.
Yeah.
Like, I don't blame them for that either. But if we lower that to 13 and make that competitive, they're going to choose
those companies
in most
here.
cases. Not even have to bring the company. They're going to bring the tax revenue. They're going to be, hey, we can pay a FDII rate of 13 here too. So we might as well continue to pay that or repatriate that revenue back to the U.S. And so,
you said inversion. That's a bad thing, right? For us,
inversions are bad things. That's when a company chooses to put their tax domicile elsewhere or in another country. A repatriation of that is when they decide to bring that back to the U.S.
Look at this. We're getting a bit of an education here. This is good. This is important.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what else was in my newsletter that particular week, but I also talk a lot about growth rates. And the reason why the CBO score will look like we have a higher deficit number is because they're assuming a 1.8% growth rate, which is fine. They can make that assumption. I think it's wrong, and I think over the next 10 years we'll see a higher growth rate than that. We as a budget committee and Republican conference, we went with a very conservative 2.6% growth rate. I think we'll outperform that. We did last quarter. Hopefully we do the next quarter. Hopefully we continue on that trend. But if we're at a 2.6% growth rate, which the last 10 years has been an average of 2.5%, we're not saying there's going to be a whole lot more. You've seen higher from a Trump era in his first term. We think if you just get to 2.6, this bill becomes very close to deficit neutral. That's just a discrepancy between the CBO numbers and our assumptions. That's all it is. They don't know what it's going to be. We don't know what it's going to be, but we get to watch and see. But it's not a deficit creator like so much of the media and, of course, our Democrat colleagues are trying to sell this as.
Well, I look at this as kind of like jet fuel in our economy, and it's high octane. It's going to grow our economy. It's going to lead to more revenues, more wealth among the people that we represent, more tax revenues for our schools, for our libraries.
And when you're able to have more discretionary income as a business owner, you're going to have more confidence to hire more and to make more capital investments. That's all there's. And once you do that, say you hire another person. Well, guess what? That's more people paying federal taxes.
That's right. One of the things that I highlight for people in my district too is the $12.5 billion in air traffic control investments that we made in the One Big Beautiful Bill. The fact that we have Pell Grants for vocational students. It's not just for four-year students studying whatever. It's
liberal
for
arts, yeah.
It's for welders, for pipe fitters, for electricians. It's for folks that aren't necessarily on a four-year path. They have the ability to have those Pell Grants now. I think that's something that's worth mentioning.
Yep.
The infrastructure investments, $1 billion in water infrastructure, that sure as heck matters in the West. I know it matters in Utah. It definitely matters in Colorado. Timber harvesting and making sure that we manage our forests well. I mean, there's so many pieces of this bill that if you just watch the news, you don't get a sense of how many good things are in this bill that help people in western Colorado and southern Colorado and in your part of Utah as well.
Absolutely. There's so much to it. Like I said, it's that one moment. A lot of committees contributed to it, and we're fortunate that we were able to get it passed and move on. And I think people will recognize over time as they look back on it, like, oh, this has been a really great boon to our economy.
Yep.
Biggest child tax credit that you can't even access it if you're under the wealthy class.
Yeah.
So to say this is a benefit for just the millionaires and billionaires of our society is flat false. It's the standard deduction, child tax credit,
middle income. If you're a senior citizen and you're on Social Security, tax cut
you get a higher deduction rate that you can take advantage of. There's a lot that go and hit working families, middle and lower income Americans.
So, and there's all other parts of the bill. We got to move on, but there's so many other things in that bill also that are just excellent wins for average families in both of our districts and across the country. Now, Blake, you've been praised for taking a solutions-first approach, even in what can be a really partisan Congress. My sense, and I think it's a pretty fair way to characterize, is Utahns are known for being civically engaged, they're pragmatic, and they're solution-oriented. Can you share a moment when you worked across the aisle to get something meaningful done for the people that you represent in Utah?
Yeah, I often talk about productivity over partisanship. Kind of won on that message, to be honest with you. And I tried to put it into play, right? We have like 11 red lines. I've only been in Congress. This is my third term, so it's just under 5 years. And I already have like 11 of our own individual bills, not just introduced, not just passed out of the House, but signed into law. So they've gone through the Senate scrub and they've been signed into law. That's significant, and it's not an area it's not like something I'm trying to boast about. But to the question, I like passing bills. I like accomplishing things. It kind of comes from my previous time as a management consultant. It's I don't want to just be doing a bunch of messaging bills, and you get caught up in that, and you have to deal with that a lot in our job, or in our role here in Congress. But we were able to put that aside, like thinking for the Great Salt Lake, really important aspect of northern Utah. The Great Salt Lake is a terminal lake. It's a saline lake that is contracting because we're facing many drought conditions out west. And I was able to work with Jared Huffman, the congressman from Northern California, member of the
Democrat.
Yeah, Democrat, member of the Progressive Caucus, fundamentally different voting record than I do, right? Different beliefs on a lot of different things. But we both have terminal lakes in our district. We came together. We recognize there's a solution. The U.S. Geological Survey is a part of this world that can conduct some research that will help the strength and vitality of these habitats going forward. And we had a strong win. We had we got it accomplished. I've done Medal of Honor, monument type of stuff. So, those are unique because it matters to my district, and I had to go navigate Congress because why in the world would a Tennessee representative or somebody from New Jersey care about a lake in Utah? But you have to work hard to make sure that people recognize the importance of that.
That's a great point. How are you guys doing for water this year? And what kind of winter did you guys have in Utah? Are you doing okay for water?
So a couple of years ago was the highest recorded snow totals in history of our state. In history of our state, it was a couple of years ago. That gave us a bit of a reprieve. It raised the lake levels up a bunch. At the saline lake I just mentioned, Great Salt Lake. The last couple years, the issue hasn't necessarily been snowfall. We've had good snowfall. We've had good snowpack. The problem was it doesn't rain enough preceding the winter, so the ground gets saturated, freezes, and then you get the runoff to the reservoirs. Now what happens is the ground is so thirsty. When spring comes, it absorbs it down instead of runs off into the reservoirs. Our reservoirs are fine, but another couple years that we've just had without that runoff is going to be troublesome.
Well, that's one of the things that I know we need to be doing is Colorado and Utah. We're part of the upper basin states in the Colorado River Basin, and making sure that we stick together and protect that precious resource is something that Utah and Colorado work very well together on. Blake, let's talk about deficits, debt, and runaway spending. Those topics come up a lot, especially in places like your district and mine. Talk to me a little bit about what right-sizing government means to you, and how do we get there without losing the trust of the public?
Yeah, I'll try to distill it down because I could go on and on with this, so I'll try not to bore your listeners too much. But the fundamental aspect of what we're dealing with here is look at the last 25 years. Over the 25 years ago was the last time we had a balanced budget. Came out of the Clinton administration and a Republican-led Congress, right? Newt Gingrich, John Kasich, President Clinton, Leon Panetta, who was former Budget Committee chairman on the Democrat side. They came together and did what was right for America. Right? President Clinton was willing to do reforms to welfare, making sure work requirements are part of it. It was like that was the worst. That was like you would have thought we were being nuts by suggesting we have work requirements to make sure that Medicaid is shored up. And like our Democrat colleagues are so far from where they were just 25 years ago. But that was the last time we had a balanced budget. At that time, the tax revenues, so revenues as a percentage of GDP, were at 17%. Spending, obviously, since we were in a surplus for a few years, spending was at 17, 18% of GDP. That was 25 years ago. Now, revenues, even though we've had significant tax reform and tax reductions, like I mentioned, when you reduce the rate but broaden the base, you still gain revenue. Tax revenues have stayed at 17% of GDP. They've gone up each year. Our GDP continues to grow. Tax revenues are still at 17%, but our spending has gone from 17% to 26%. That chasm is the reason we have so much deficit, and it's continued on for 25 years. In 2008, baby boomers started to retire, and so we started to have more folks leave the workforce. Now, they paid into the system, so they deserve this benefit, but the reality is a lot of folks were leaving the workforce, entering into their retirement years where they were getting the benefit of Social Security and Medicare. Those expenses continue to grow, and they grow exponentially, and they grow quite. Welfare programs have grown quite large as well. That's what we call mandatory spending. Mandatory spending now eclipses over 70% of our budget. Back 25, let's say 50 years ago, mandatory spending was less than a third, less than 20% of our budget. It was mostly defense and the things that we appropriated each year. Now that has actually shifted, and those big programs, Medicare, Social Security, welfare programs, those have grown to the point where they have taken over, and it's like 70% of our budget. And we just didn't prepare for that shift. Interest costs just to service the debt are also now the second largest budget line item. Where before it was about $220 billion, let's say 10 years ago, it is now up to $1 trillion.
Wow.
So
That's bigger than our defense budget.
It's bigger. It's rivaling the size of our defense budget, and will probably be larger for sure within the next year or two. It'll be larger than Medicare. Social Security is our largest budget line item. So we have some big, huge programs. Those benefits are important,
Absolutely.
but it's all just sort of compounding on itself. And here's the real problem. So we have a strong treasury market right now. People still want to invest in the U.S. They still are comfortable with the yields that we'll provide. That confidence is still high. But it's starting to come into question. It's starting to erode a little bit, right? You have some concerns about the credit ratings and whatever with our bond market. If in 10, 15 years we're still running $2 to $2.5 trillion deficits, we're saying, hey, we come up with this much revenue, we spend this much, there's a difference there, we just borrow to cover that difference. But in 10 to 15 years, if we can't borrow that much money to cover the difference of what we overspend, then we're in trouble. Then we're in trouble. Then we have to make a decision, because if we can't borrow the money, you're not going to be able to tax to get that much, because we've just got so much spending. We'll have to make some really difficult decisions. And that's the part that really concerns me. That's why I want to try to get a debt commission going now. I want to get out ahead of this issue over the next 2 to 3 years. If we were able to sort of like fend off some of these looming issues that are coming up with some of these big programs, we have a fighting chance. But if we don't do anything about it now and just wait till 10, 12 years, and all of a sudden we can't sell our treasuries because people are like, I'm going to put my money in crypto instead of a U.S. treasury, or I'm going to go to Australia, or I'm going to go to the BRIC nations. They've got this new treasury program that they're doing. Like, no country's going to overtake us right now that I foresee, but there's going to be other options than U.S. treasuries, and if we can't truly sell those to cover our deficits, that's when it becomes problematic.
You've been a real thought leader on this, Blake, in terms of talking about the revenue side of things, but also needing to address the spending side and make sure that our long-term fiscal health is accounted for, because otherwise this is a debt on your kids and my kids and our grandchildren and the kids and grandchildren of people across the country. Yep. So let's move back to something a little more specific.
Let me just jump in real quick. As you said, in June of 2025 versus June of 2024, it was initially reported that we ran a surplus for the first time in the month. I think there's some issues with when the last day of the month came. It was on the weekend, and so some of the receipts didn't come. Like, it's small, but regardless if we actually ran a surplus, we have lowered our deficit.
Yep.
And that cannot that's the kind of stuff we have to do to signal to the market. President Trump administration. I wasn't in office during his first administration. Like I said, it started in 2021. But my viewpoint, I'm seeing a much more fiscally conservative, responsible approach. They are more focused on reducing our overall expenditures than I did see the first time around. And we're doing that. So with keeping taxes competitive, growing the economy, and reducing our overall spend, we're not getting a balanced budget yet anytime soon. That's many years away. But we're working towards that, and we're actually seeing our deficits being reduced. It's only a few months, but it's a good sign that it's going in that direction.
Steps in the right direction. Absolutely. Blake, Hill Air Force Base is a huge part of Utah's economy, and it's critical to our national defense. For listeners outside of Utah, though, tell us what makes Hill so strategically important. That's in your district, right?
Yeah, Hill Air Force Base is a.
Why does it matter to people that don't live in Utah? Tell us about Hill Air Force Base. What's there, and
Absolutely.
why does it matter?
Yeah, it's not just in my district. It's kind of the heart and soul of my district. 25 to 30,000 employees, active duty, civilian workforce, all associated there. It's incredibly important. The reason why Hill is important to other folks, other parts of the country, we're the first operational wing of the F-35, the 5th-gen fighter pilot.
Oh, wow.
We also sustain the Sentinel program, the current Minuteman program, as well as
what is Minuteman?
The Sentinel program that's coming online.
Is that nuclear missiles?
In this country, we have missile silos throughout the western United States, locked, ready, loaded, ready to go. Anybody messes with us, we will be able to fire off a nuclear weapon. And those silos are throughout the western United States. We maintain or sustain those so they're in good working order. And it's 1/3 of the nuclear triad. And it is entirely, how tumultuous was our global conflicts up until post-World War II? I think this was, let's just call it in the early 70s, we established this nuclear deterrent program.
Mm-hmm.
And 1/3 of that triad, you have them off submarines, you have them from bombers, and then you have them in silos in the U.S. And, we have not had any type of major conflict or threat to the homeland outside of non-state sponsored terrorism for quite some time. This creates it's probably one of the most important things for kind of global peace is deterrence in the proper hands, right? And that's kind of
peace
some of the
through
things
strength.
We do. Yeah, don't mess with us kind of attitude, and we would never use those improperly. I don't know if other countries, I wouldn't say the same about Putin, but I would say it about us, and that those are things that are done at Hill Air Force Base. But it's just a thriving community. The community loves our airmen and women that are stationed there. And
so the F-35, do you have any other planes there?
So we have the F-16s were a big part of what we were doing before the sustainment. So a big portion of the F-16s, and then F-35s were brought on as well. There's a few other jets that we keep out of there. We have an awesome air show, of course, which is the fun stuff. And I just played in the Commander's Cup. There's a golf tournament for the Hill Air Force Base Museum. What did I say? What did I send to our team? We had a group picture, and I said, "This may look like a winning team, but it sure wasn't a winning team."
Well, an A for effort.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Blake, lightning round. If you weren't in Congress, what would you be doing?
Offensive coordinator at a high school.
Okay. All right. That may be coming. You may be in Congress. And
everything I'm doing right now is gearing up to that big moment in my life where I finally get to be an offensive coordinator. There is nothing more gratifying professionally than calling a play, seeing what the defense was doing, and then calling a play to adjust to what they're doing and having it go for a touchdown or a long conversion or something. It's one of the most gratifying things ever.
Are there any coaches that you look to, like for inspiration or model? Are there any head coaches?
No, I mean, I've had coaches my whole life, so I've got great relationships with some of them, but no, nothing in particular right now that speaks to me.
Well, if this whole Congress thing doesn't work out, we can have our full-time offensive coordinator back in Utah.
Yes, sir.
Proudest legislative moment so far? Was it the One Big Beautiful Bill? Was it something else?
I mean, making tax policy permanent and being a big part of that will have a lasting impact. It'll be the most professionally important thing that I do in Congress. Before in 2017, when Republicans did TCJA, they had to put it on a timeline, right? It was all going to expire at the end of 2025, most of it. Being able to make it permanent, and the business provisions that we had to change back in 2017, we chose to change. I mean, Republicans didn't want to change R&D and EBITDA and bonus depreciation, but they felt the need to with the way the CBO scores things and JCT. We were able to make all of that stuff permanent. Child tax credit included, business provisions, everything permanency will be a game changer for our country because you don't get it. Because then what are we negotiating against? We're not negotiating against, oh, it's going to end in a couple of years. We're negotiating against, oh, no, this is how we're going to thrive as a nation and an economy going forward. And that's what we have to negotiate against. So if Democrats did take control of the White House and Senate again, I mean, they're staring down the barrel of like, oh, we know this is really good tax policy. We don't like to admit it publicly. But, yeah, we're not going to change this and this. This is huge, so what we just did.
Yep, I completely agree. And there were a lot of doubters. Didn't think we could get this done.
We'll get there.
It was tremendous. All right, next question. As someone who's been serving in the House since 2020 and who also serves as my congressional mentor, what advice would you give a freshman member of Congress, such as myself?
Understand your district as well as, I mean, I went around, I did as much as I possibly could back home, connecting with people, working with county officials, state officials, local mayors. Like, just dig into that. You're not going to be able to solve. How many counties do you have
in your district?
My new district, I have 8, 6 full and then 2 half. And so, yeah. But it's a more northern part of the state. And it's hard to get around. You've probably got a pretty big district yourself. But just like understanding what your county officials and your city officials need, like that goes a long way. Yeah. And you're not going to be able to solve all their issues. You're going to be able to lean in and help on some things here or there. But the most important thing, we just won the award called the Best in Constituent Service Award. I would try to check that out and get involved in that.
That's a great suggestion.
But that's one of the neatest things you can do is because you're helping people get their passports. You're helping someone navigate Social Security. Or you're contacting the Army Corps of Engineers. You'll have a lot of this because I'm sure you got wetlands out there. The Army Corps of Engineers to help with some development with your municipalities. Helping smooth over those relationships is some of the most important work you'll do.
Constituent services, absolutely. That's the front lines there for sure. Okay, ideal weekend. Skiing Utah's slopes or hiking Utah's Red Rocks?
I do a lot more skiing. It's so hot.
That was actually a trick question. You're supposed to say skiing in Colorado and hiking in Colorado, but
yeah, I mean, if we need to downgrade, no. Skiing it's pretty.
So
unbeatable.
You're a skier, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not no. I don't call myself a skier. Let me make that very clear on the record. I ski. I'm not a skier. I got buddies that are skiers. Like growing up in Utah. There are some amazing skiers. I'm far too uncoordinated. I was a basketball player growing up. But if I had to choose between skiing and hiking, I'm definitely skiing because the whole the lift takes you up the hard part, and then you just get to do the fun stuff coming down.
So I did not grow up skiing. My wife grew up skiing, and she's very graceful in how she gets down the mountain. Somebody once took a video of me getting down the mountain, and I did not believe it was me. I was like, there's no way I could look that terrible. But I got that. I get down the mountain, so I can get it done. I can ski to keep up with my wife and kids. That's all that matters. It doesn't look great.
I fly fished up in Idaho 20 years ago, and then I've fished since then, but not really. I went out fly fished, and I took my boys out last weekend. It's starting to be my favorite thing.
Okay.
If I'm going to recreate, I'm going to prefer to golf over anything. But this fly fishing thing's now I'm starting to get into it.
All right. Well, we'll have to check in with you at some future point and see how that fly fishing's going. What's the first job you ever had?
Well, I mowed lawns as a kid early, but I don't think I don't think I ever submitted a W-2 for that one. So let's go with 15 years old. I stood in a puddle of water with a little bit of a sketchy electric switch, moving ice from the big canister to the little bags, and we would take those to the convenience stores. So nice. I was an ice packer.
Wow.
And my first job, that was like my official first paycheck I ever, because I would just do neighborhood lawn mowing as a kid, but 15 years old, ice packing.
Awesome. What's one thing Washington could learn from Utah?
There's a lot that Washington could learn from Utah. I think the thing that sticks out to me is there are national parks, there are state parks, there's a lot of landscapes, there's a lot of public lands in both of our states. Utah does an exceptional job of managing their own stuff, and they do it responsibly, and they do it with conservation in mind. I mean, no one wants fishes and streams and beautiful landscapes more than Utahns. That's partly what it's part of our culture. But being able to manage the land as close as possible is a key thing. We love our national parks, and we want to make sure that the relationships that we have between the federal agencies that are overseeing that and our state authorities is rock solid. We have MOUs that work with that. As much as possible, Utah being able to share with the the federal government on how to properly, take care of land. Grazing is not a bad thing. Grazing reduces wildfire.
Absolutely.
And I just see this kind of attitude towards, we're gonna move away from this type of stuff. Like, no, that's not ultimately the best thing, because then we're gonna get charred with pretty tough wildfires. That would be something that Utah does well. It's always easy to say the balanced budgets and fiscal responsibility. That's another great thing from Utah. But I would actually say the management of land is important.
I think that's a really good point. And that multiple use mandate, one of the things we're doing I'm on House Natural Resources, and we talk about putting the conservative back into conservation. And when we talk about conservation, we just talk about wise stewardship of land, and that making sure that we can do that balance of energy, of agriculture, of outdoor recreation, all those things that are such a responsible and wise use of our public land. So that's something that's really important to us in Colorado's 3rd as well.
And I know you're a good rep on that committee, and you'll keep gaining influence on that committee too with the way you're going.
What's something people would be surprised to learn about you?
I am 6'5", Caucasian. Like
Scandinavian, you appear to be white.
Of Scandinavian descent, but I am a proud card-carrying member of the Korean American Caucus.
Really?
Yeah, they let me in.
How did that happen?
Because I serve my church mission in Korea, so I speak Korean.
Do you really? That's a hard language.
Young Kim and Michelle Steele. Michelle Steele's no longer in Congress, but they allowed me to be a part of their Korean American Caucus.
Wow.
I'm pretty proud of it.
That's awesome. I did. Okay, that's a fact that
it's
I did not know.
It's very very awkward to see a big tall white guy speaking Korean, and it always takes him off guard when I do it.
I bet. Who's someone in history or in politics that you love to throw a football around with and chat?
If I'm going to throw it around, I'd prefer to throw a baseball around. That's the great American sport still. I love football, yada yada, but I would love to play catch and just chat with James Garfield.
Wow. James Garfield. President Garfield?
Yep.
Okay.
Have you read his book? If not his book, he didn't write it.
Biography about him?
The biography about him?
My son read it. He said it was very interesting.
I forgot the name of it.
So, one of the most prominent mountains in what's called the Grand Valley in my hometown, Grand Junction, is Mount Garfield, named after him.
Is it really?
So, was he a good president?
We have. I don't know if it's named after him, but we have. So he was a very short president. He was shot.
Okay.
What I love about James Garfield is he didn't want to be president. They forced him. They forced it on him.
Wow.
It was in like a caucus meeting, and they were going the rounds, and they said it has to be James Garfield, and he's like, I don't want this. And he was beloved by all the people that worked with him. It's a really really amazing biography of him. But you actually see true service coming out. It wasn't any self-aggrandizement in any way, shape, or form. This is not the plight that he had wanted. He was just the right guy for it. Mm-hmm. And that would be an experience and someone that I would love to talk to. I mean, my favorite president is Reagan, right? Like Reagan's I just visited his ranch, and it would be hard to turn down an opportunity to hang out with Ronald Reagan or Abraham Lincoln, or obviously the greats. But James Garfield gets overlooked as such an amazing character.
That's awesome. George Washington also was somebody that didn't want to necessarily be president and felt that call to serve. And it goes all the way back to Cincinnatus, the Roman general, who was like a farmer who was called up to lead the Roman army, yep. and then ended up just returning back home and just wanted to be a farmer. Last question. What is the most rewarding part of your job?
I love getting bills signed into law because it's a red line. You get to frame it. Your team can look around it and be like, "Hey, we accomplished something. We're supposed to be legislators." But like navigating something back home, where somebody, has an issue and you're able to sort of unlock a problem for them, whether it be an immigration issue or a federal agency or something like that. Like those are cool experiences. But like I said, having tax policy permanent, I know it's super niche and policy wonky, but this is going to be really, really key thing for our economy going forward. And that was impressive. So there's multiple. I can't pick just one, but those are the things that kind of pop into my mind.
My guest today has been Congressman Blake Moore, representing Utah's 1st District. Thank you, Blake, for joining Hurd in the House and sharing your insights. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. For more information about today's episode or to sign up for updates from my office, visit hurd.house.gov. That's HURD.house.gov. Or check out my YouTube channel at Rep. Jeff Hurd. That's it for now. We'll talk to you soon.